then we'll move to Natia. And from Georgia, she's now working for the Georgian National Museum. Georgia is going to bring us to the science world, right? Yes. So I'm very excited about that. So please.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you, NPR committee and Deborah, for choosing my presentation for this conference. And I also would like to thank my Czechian colleague Tomáš Turacek. He's the editor-in-chief of the National Geographic Czechia, and he came to attend my presentation, which makes me very calm and convinced, because we at the National Geographic often say that we have various faces, different languages, but we are one family, and thanks for that. My name is Natia Khuluzauri, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the National Geographic Magazine-Georgia. And this was the video about the Java-Kheti bird migration route that our team has created a few years ago. And this video is the part of the Caucasus Biodiversity exhibition at the Georgian National Museum, where I worked as the chief of staff of the General Director's Office for 13 years, till June of the current year. But because of current situation in Georgia and some unfortunate events seemingly very welcomed by Russia, the culture is quite under pressure in Georgia, and many museum professionals were forced to leave their jobs, and among them I am. But today I'm going to present the joint project that we did, but before going into the details, I would like to say a few words about the Georgian National Museum, about the National Geographic Georgia, and our collaboration. The first museum in Georgia was founded back in 1852. Then it was closed shortly after, and then it reopened, and the first director is considered to be Gustav Rade, the German naturalist and explorer. And the Caucasian Museum exhibited culture of the whole region of Caucasus and had a rich collections of the natural history. The Georgian National Museum, uniting Georgia's major museums today, is a legal successor of the Caucasian Museum, and the first museum in Caucasus now is part of the Georgian National Museum. On the other hand, the National Geographic Society, founded back in 1888 in Washington, D.C., issued its first magazine in October of that very same year, and it is already for 134 years that the National Geographic has been pushing the boundaries of exploration through its groundbreaking, incredible storytelling using our yellow border. So it is very natural, it was very natural when the National Geographic Magazine-Georgia was founded back in 2012 in Georgia by the largest communication company, leading communication company in Georgia, SilkNet. The National Museum widely opened its doors to the National Geographic editorial team and allocated office within its walls. And this was really a win-win situation because it would give a unique possibility to the newly founded edition to have direct access to the science that was going on in the National Museum and often the world-class discoveries. And on the other hand, the magazine with its outstanding narration and visual storytelling would become another platform of communication of the museum. We have really implemented many very interesting projects since 2012. And one of those projects was the Caucasus Biodiversity exhibition, and later on the first ever illustrated map of the biodiversity of the South Caucasus, which actually I brought here, but because of the space I didn't put it out. But I'll have it in the presentation and you will have a chance to have it later, have a look if you are interested later on. It is also important to note that according to the Conservation International, there are 36 biodiversity rich areas in the world that have been qualified as the biodiversity hotspots, and Caucasus is among them. On the other hand, the Western Caucasus is an area where important glacial refugia was located. That means that the Western Caucasus is an area of relatively unaltered climate that is inhabited by plants and animals during a period of continental climate changes, such as glaciation, for example, and remains as a center of relict forms from which a new dispersion and new speciation may take place after climatic readjustments. Thus, Caucasus is an important place in terms of biodiversity for the world and for the region, and the scientific society is quite well aware of it, but what about general public? After reopening of the renovated Caucasus Biodiversity exhibition, which was at the same time tribute to the founders of the Museum of Caucasus, and we have had their dioramas and showcases from the back 19th century, but in the modern surrounding with the modern technologies. We understood that public knew very little about the biodiversity of Caucasus. It was really astonishing for them to find out that in the beginning of 20th century, Turanian tiger was captured near Tbilisi, and not very long ago, leopard was still part of our ecosystem, or that you can meet great white or Dalmatine pelicans at Javakheti. The National Geographic Georgia had already contributed to the exhibition the bird migration route, educational corner, and with videos, one of which you have already seen, and we have several about the Black Sea dolphins, about the Batumi bird migration route, and etc. So we decided to set a new and ambitious plan and to create the biodiversity map of the South Caucasus. The map would cover the whole land of Georgia and its adjacent territories, with the possibility to extend its coverage to the whole Caucasus. And most importantly, it would be available not only for the museum visitors, but for everyone and anywhere, which led us to the decision to make two versions of the map, the printed one and digital one. We had to solve several problems. We needed to select species out of hundreds of thousands inhabiting territory of Caucasus. gather impressive images that would attract not only eyes of professionals but the interested general public, find a way to give that minimum and most important information about one or another species that could be worthwhile and would fit in the map legend, and this was really a problematic task for us. And finally, of course, find the budget to cover quite expensive project. To solve the first task, we teamed up the scientists from the Georgian National Museum and the Ilia State University to select and categorize species. To solve the problems of the images, we decided to use our strengths and to create the NGM standard illustrations that would be scientifically accurate. For the Georgian English website of the map, we decided to include the scientific common names. We decided to have distribution, habitat conservation status on international and local level, and size of the population. For the printed map, we were very short in size, so we could include only scientific and common names and abbreviation of international conservation status. And GIZ Integrated Biodiversity Management South Caucasus project has decided to fund our map. So we officially started the project in December 2018, and after 10 months of intensive work on September 28, 2019, we presented the biodiversity map of the South Caucasus to public. At the first stage, we have incorporated 120 illustrations. I won't name all of them here. For the exhibition, our team of designers worked to create a special showcase which would lighten the map size of 3 meters to 1.5 meters from inside out, and at the same time would serve as a base for 2 touch screens for the digital map. We have printed the smaller scale version of the map in amount of 2,500 copies and spread among the schools around Georgia through the resource center of the Ministry of Education. And we decided to make the digital content free to use for educational and scientific purposes, and edit, download, and print option to each individual page. And really one of our aims when creating the map was a possibility for schools to include it in the curriculum, so teachers could use it to conduct joyful lessons showing high quality visual material to children, and we wanted pupils to have a possibility to use the map preparing presentations or any other material they needed. However, by that very moment, we could not even imagine that all that we did could gain another scale of importance just in few months when pandemic hit the world and we all were forced to adopt to distance working and learning process. And just in 1 month, usage of our website has increased for 50%. Thus, driven by belief that the power of science, education, and storytelling would change the world, we appear to be making science reachable in the world changed by the COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natia. Very good story.